Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to Squadron Supreme. I've been gone for a bit, and that's because I have been working tirelessly away on my self-published comic series, The Custodians, Agents of Cross. This 6-issue comic series asks the all-important question: what would happen if the only heroes that can save the world are an intelligent baboon, the world's smartest man with the power of elasticity only in his right arm, a teenage girl who controls fire, and a four-armed werewolf? Find out now, because issue 3 is releasing weekly over on my Patreon, with issues 1 and 2 having been uploaded there in their entirety. Each book of this 6-issue series is going to be over 50 pages. The last issue is closer to 70. Only $15 for these books. Far better deal than anything you'll get from Marvel or DC these days. And if you're in the Phoenix area, I will be attending Arizona Comic Arts Festival on March 22nd at the Phoenix Shrine Auditorium. Check it out. It's a one-day show. Gonna be really great. They've had some great big-name guests in the past. This year they got Kevin Eastman, and that is going to be the first place that you'll be able to buy the physical copy of The Custodians, Agents of Cross, issue 3, which sees our heroes, the Custodians, as they travel to the Rallian Institute for Accelerated Learning to meet the most fantastic supergroup in training, the Infinitum Brood. It also features 2 backup stories: Let's Get Happy, in which the Neuronaut must mentally battle the villainous Gray Matter, and The Bench That Wouldn't Stop. An evil city councilman summons a demonic bench that eats people. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald, with art by John Buscema and Jackson Geiss, this is Squadron Supreme 7, Love and Death. Previously on Squadron Supreme. I've fought to make the world a better place too, but solving all the world's problems and handing it to people on a silver platter just seems wrong. How meaningful will a utopia be if it's a gift and not something that has been earned? There's a way to save countless lives who would have been lost to all of these afflictions, and we don't try to implement it. What kind of heroes would we be? We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope. And Hyperion assures him that the Squadron has begun a job and relocation service for ex-convicts who partake in the program. Then Arcana readies and operates the machine and rewrites Calvin Maroney's mind so that he now feels a deep regard for all living creatures and is incapable of doing anything that might inflict injury or death. Blue Eagle demands that Archer is expelled from the team after he deliberately betrayed not just a member of their team, but his own partner. Amphibian declares that they're all hypocrites. Amphibian arrives at one of the lab buildings and locates the B-Mod machines, which he promptly destroys. As he's leaving, Ape X finds him. Then he instructs Ape X to perform a mass wipe of the B-Mod device plans from every system they have. She questions why, and he grimaces and tells her it's because he told her to. And now, after she's been B-Modded, she has to obey every direct order from a member of the Squadron. That's why. And a half hour later, Amphibian steals an air car, crashes into the ocean, and says farewell to the surface world. The book begins with the return of Nighthawk. Nighthawk is taken to the secret observatory base by Mink, Remnant, and Pinball, who, in the previous issue, were all sent to Earth 616, and then promptly sent back by Captain America and Nighthawk. The overall consensus was that people wanted me to cover that issue of Captain America with this crossover, so I think once I finish the main issues of the Squadron series, I'll go back to that one, since, you know, we're kind of past that point now. I may as well just finish the main issues. Anyway, the aforementioned secret observatory base is owned by none other than Master Menace. Nighthawk is captured in a stasis field by Master Menace, and then reveals that he had the Earth's retired Wizard Supreme, Professor Imam, send him to an alternate universe where he hoped to find superheroes that could return and help him overthrow the Squadron. Unfortunately, all he found were the trio of villains in Captain America, who convinced them that their goals were the same and that they should join forces instead. Master Menace asks what his goal is, and Nighthawk informs him that he is going to defeat the Squadron Supreme. Then Nighthawk proposes that he and Master Menace join forces. Master Menace says that Master Menace allies himself with no one other than Master Menace, and that his underlings are of his own choosing. Then he orders Nighthawk to leave. Nighthawk escapes out into the night with the others, and they fly away. Later, Master Menace marches through the halls of his base and works on his own plan to defeat the Squadron. You see, that machine that he used to travel the multiverse and, tear a hole in reality and send those three into Earth 616, he has been using it to actually scan the dimensions that are available to locate a certain individual. And he has finally discovered who he's looking for, located somewhere in interdimensional space. Master Menace retrieves a large metal rod and injects it into a glowing mass of unknowable cosmic multiversal energy as he dredges the void between space until he rips out Hyperion. He's like a vendor at a carnival, using one of those long rods to grab a stuffed animal. This Hyperion asks who his rescuer is, and Master Menace removes his helmet to reveal his big beard and long wild hair, and announces that he is Dr. Emil Burbank. They've actually met before. Briefly, but they have. Hyperion recognizes the name and realizes that he's been sent to the other world with the other Hyperion. Because this fake Hyperion, Hyperion, is the original Hyperion character. Hyperion and the Squadron Sinister were originally created by Roy Thomas as a hacky knockoff of the Justice League to fight and lose against the Avengers way back in 1969. He and the others were created by the Grand Master, and it was later kind of retconned that the Grand Master really just made them as living bootlegs of the original real Squadron Supreme, the ones that we're following currently. And after some weird adventures on Earth 616, where Hyperion kind of gets trapped as a villain for a while, he wound up in an endless void outside of reality until Master Menace just fished him out. Also, this Hyperion, is a fucking idiot. And he's also in love with Thundra from Earth 616. And Master Menace, of course, proposes that he can use his technology to find her, and then once his work here is done, and Hyperion helps him, Hyperion, then Master Menace will send him to go live a happy life with his love, Thundra. Meanwhile, the real Hyperion flies to a prison with a massive crate tied around his waist with Foxfire. They meet with the warden and inform him that they've had to completely overhaul the behavior modification, or BMod, machines due to some issues, and now they're a bit behind schedule. The warden once again says that he refuses to alter the minds of his fellow man, and Foxfire tells him that she is a much better woman for getting her brain scrambled. It has totally stifled her urges to act antisocially and engage in violence and crime, and she says that she is far happier and actually proud of who she is. But as they're speaking, oh, look at that! Coincidentally, there is a massive meteorite crashing to Earth. Hyperion breaks away into action and chases after the meteor and nearly destroys a hawk. He prepares to shatter the space rock when suddenly an energy overcomes him and he disappears. And inside the meteor, which is actually a ship, Master Menace sets down his displacer ray that he just shot out the window in some weird sci-fi drive-by, and orders Hyperion to evacuate the ship and follow the plan. The meteor detonates and Master Menace's ship blasts off at great speeds as Hyperion pretends to crash land. Sometime later, a helicopter from the prison finds him lying in the desert pretending to be unconscious. Foxfire races to him and radios in the accident, and about an hour later, he's returned to the Squadron City, and Dr. Decibel inspects Hyperion and concludes that he has a concussion, but none of their equipment works on him because he's a fucking alien. Then Hyperion wakes up with amnesia. And later, Power Princess gives a rundown to... oh my. Power Princess gives a rundown to the rest of the squadron about what happened to Hyperion, and that their deadline to reconstitute the country under their control is 6 months away. And they are in the far worse spot now that 1, their leader Hyperion is amnesic, 2, amphibian busted all the B-mod equipment and their research and just ran off to the oceans. 3, there's that whole Golden Archer situation that they had to deal with. The 4, I guess I could keep going. People still hate them. 5, Nighthawk just hasn't been seen for the past 7 months. And you can just keep going with the issues that they have to deal with. Power Princess says that as Hyperion's oldest and longest friend in the superhero field, she'll see to making sure that he gets back in the saddle. Wizard then notes that this Hyperion situation should definitely be kept under wraps, like Roosevelt's wheelchair. Doc Spectrum announces that he is ready to re-enter combat duty and take Hyperion's place. And sometime later, Power Princess arrives at the hospital room of Hyperion, and she gives him a diamond to crush, and he does so with extreme ease. Then she asks if he's up for flying. Hyperion is apprehensive, but does it with ease as well, and as they fly over the crater city of the Squadron base, Zarda thinks about how she's been seeing Hyperion in a new way these past couple months. And this vulnerability he's experiencing is appealing. Hyperion likens Zarda to Thundra. They land in the housing area, and beneath the moonlight, they feel a connection and a tension that pulls them closer and closer, until Zarda says that she needs to get inside. Hyperion watches her leave, and then notices a light flicker on in the second story. So, obviously, he flies up to the window, and sees Zarda meet her aged husband, and kiss him goodnight on the forehead. Hyperion flies off in annoyance, wondering if that was her boyfriend or grandfather. He heads back to his hospital room, and this coloring mistake actually looks pretty good. I really dig the visual of the solid red sleeves on Hyperion. I honestly kind of like this mistake in the coloring more than the actual look. Anyway, fake Hyperion finds Decibel and explains that Power Princess was trying to jog his memory by touring the Squadron crater city with him, but no dice. Then he asks who the old man is, and Decibel explains that he's her husband. I don't know if I've ever actually discussed the fact that I think I did pretty early on. I think there's something about it. But in case you're wondering, if you forgot, obviously she's Wonder Woman, Power Princess is. So this is her Steve Trevor, meaning that they met 40 years prior in World War II. She was comparatively younger, probably did look the same though. He was 40 years younger. So, take a guess what happened. The next morning, however, Zarda rushes through the hospital halls carrying Howard in her arms. And not long after, Dr. Decibel and the medical staff try to resuscitate him, but they're unable to. And Zarda follows as they wheel him out, and she is comforted by Hyperion. Because Hyperion used his super breath to suck all of the air out of his lungs and collapse them. And then, to make sure nobody was suspicious, he waited to hear the old man die and blew oxygen back into his lungs. Later that night, Hyperion walks with Zarda and they discuss the current state of his amnesia. She tells him that they have to work on it a little more, but he's getting there. He's doing good, and pretty soon he'll be back in the public eye and running things. Then she thanks him for walking her home, and Hyperion wonders whether or not he should betray the squadron. Because on one hand, he can get Thundra back, maybe, if Master Menace keeps his word. But on the other hand, if he chooses Zarda the Power Princess. That's a muscle mommy who's right here! And he has to do substantially less work to win her over. He decides that his Betty and Veronica situation is better if he goes with the actual woman who's here and not there, where he doesn't know. So he flies to Master Menace's base and unleashes his laser vision. Master Menace's force field disperses it, and Hyperion goes fucking crazy on him. He just totals Master Menace and his lab, and Master Menace manages to escape and activates his dimensional machine and uses his armor to open a portal and leaps away into nothing as fake Hyperion smashes his way through the lab. He takes a look around, doesn't bother to investigate, figures that he did a good enough job killing Master Menace, and then rockets himself away. The next day, a funeral service is held for Howard Shelton. And 4 days after that, Hyperion has been sufficiently coached and brought up to speed on his amnesia, and he and Power Princess go to that uppity warden's prison to get the B-Mod machines in use. And a week after that, at Lake Supreme in Squadron City, Zarda yields to an irresistible force. The end. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts were on this issue of the Squadron Supreme. As always, I always say it in each one, it is one of my favorite comics of all time. One of my favorite Marvel comics especially. Love Mark Gruenwald. Love this one. This is a weird point in the issues, because on one hand, it's fantastic that Mark Gruenwald is bringing that stupid fucking Squadron Sinister idea that Roy Thomas made, and is doing something interesting with it. But on the other hand, this is like, it's very soap opera-y. It's very X-Men soap opera comics, because this is just, like, he literally gets amnesia, he's an evil twin, there's a romantic tryst, there's a murder, there's another fucking murder. How many funerals has this been, by the way? Don't worry, because there's gonna be a lot more death, and more often than not, the deaths that are occurring to the Squadron members and their substantial relatives and nearby people, supporting cast, they come from the hands of the Squadron themselves. But this is like, this issue and the next issue are just so odd. They're very stand-out-ish. They're outliers compared to everything else that's happening, because it just screeches on the brakes. Let's take a stop real quick. We haven't spent much time with Hyperion, not as much as you'd expect. So that's kind of what these are in a way, and it's just ramped up. Like I said, it's like a soap opera. I've said it before, they've passed the sort of moral event horizon. This one, I don't know what sort of event horizon the next issue is going to pass, but there's one. There is one. The violent event horizon, I suppose. The Squadron, a couple of the members, one in particular, he lets himself loose and maybe gets a bit too violent, but we'll see. We'll see what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments below. Can't wait to get around to it. Can't wait to get to the big happening of Nighthawk. Nighthawk's finally going to start coming back in the book a little more. I think issue 9 and beyond, we actually start following him as he gets his whole, like, resistance movement set up a little bit, but I am very excited to continue. Like I said, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. As always, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey's videos, Etsy, blaketwild.etsy.com for the physical comics of the Custodians and Destructo Boy, a fun sci-fi series fit for all ages. AZ CAF is coming up in March 22nd. Like and subscribe, leave recommendations down below for what comics I should read, and check out my podcast, the Comic Shtick Podcast, I Need Some Disney Podcast, and maybe the Podcast in a Percolator if we ever get that one back up and running. It's about Twin Peaks. And I will see you next time. Bye!